49 cents. That is what this costs. One fruit. Any grocery store in America carries it. And a clinical trial published in the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry found it improved insulin sensitivity in just 6 weeks. 6 weeks. And I have been recommending it for years. But here's what keeps me up at night. Almost every single person I know who eats this fruit is eating it in a way that cancels out nearly all of the benefit. They are pouring the medicine down the drain before it ever reaches their bloodstream. And while they do that, they have 4 other fruits sitting in their kitchen right now. Fruits labeled healthy, fruits their doctors have never flagged, fruits their grandchildren bring to Sunday dinners, and those 4 fruits are quietly pushing their blood sugar in the wrong direction every single day. Right now, as you are sitting here watching this, that process is happening. And you have no idea which fruits are helping you and which ones are working against you, because nobody has ever laid it out clearly. I am going to rank 7 fruits today, worst to best. Number 7 will shock you because it is the one most people over 60 reach for all summer, thinking it is the safe choice. Number 1 is why a woman I work with named Sandra. She represents a pattern I have seen dozens of times in my practice. Went from an A1C of 8.4 down to 6.1 in 90 days. Her own specialist asked her what she changed. She said 1 fruit. He wrote it down. But before I get to number 1, I need to explain something that nobody has time to cover in a 7-minute office visit, because without this, the list means nothing. Leave 1 word in the comments right now. The fruit you eat most days of the week. I read every single one. Now let me show you what is actually happening inside your body every time you eat fruit. Because fruit is not one thing. This is the part that most people never hear. Think of your body like a careful accountant. Your liver is the accountant. And every time you eat fruit, the liver has to process the sugar that comes with it. Now, most of the sugar in fruit is called fructose. And fructose does not go straight into your bloodstream the way glucose does. It takes a detour. It goes to the liver first. Your liver has to deal with it before anything else can happen. In small amounts with fiber still intact, your liver handles this beautifully. It processes the fructose slowly. Blood sugar barely moves. No spike, no crash, no problem. But here is what changes everything. When you eat fruit without the fiber, when you juice it, blend it, or eat a fruit that is naturally low in fiber and unusually high in sugar, that fructose floods the liver all at once. Picture pouring a bucket of water through a coffee filter versus a garden hose through the same filter. The filter handles the slow drip. The hose overwhelms it. When fructose overwhelms your liver, the liver panics. It converts that fructose directly into fat. But worse than that, it triggers something called hepatic insulin resistance. Your liver starts ignoring insulin signals. And when your liver stops responding to insulin, your fasting blood sugar climbs, even while you sleep, even when you have not eaten in 12 hours. That is why some fruits quietly protect you and others quietly harm you. Not because fruit is bad, but because the fiber, the type of sugar, and how you eat it change everything. Now I need to pause and be clear about something before we go further. Everything I share today is based on published research and what I have seen in practice. It is not a replacement for your doctor's guidance, especially if you are managing diabetes or on medication. What this is the conversation your doctor would have with you if they had 45 minutes instead of 7. Now, here is the part most people skip past, and it is the most important part of this entire video. Here is what the food industry does not want you to think too carefully about. The labels on your grocery store fruit say things like natural, fresh, healthy choice. And technically those labels are accurate, but your body does not read labels. Your body reads chemistry. And the chemistry of a glass of orange juice is almost identical to the chemistry of a can of soda. Your liver cannot tell the difference. The fiber is gone. The fructose hits all at once. The spike happens. You feel fine in the moment. 2 hours later, you are crashing. You eat something to stabilize. The cycle continues. And nobody ever connects those dots because the label said healthy. That is not your fault. The information simply has not been put in front of you clearly. So let me do that now. Here is how this video works. I am ranking 7 fruits from worst to best. As I go through each one, I want you to keep a running tally in your head of how many of these are in your kitchen right now, because by the time I reach number 1, you are going to want to walk into that kitchen and rearrange a few things. But first, let me introduce you to Sandra. She represents a pattern I have seen more times than I can count. Sandra is 67 years old, retired postal worker, lives in Virginia. She came in 2 years ago with an A1C of 8.4. That is the level where her endocrinologist was already preparing the conversation about starting insulin. She had been managing type 2 diabetes for 11 years. She was doing everything right, taking her medication, watching her portions, walking every morning, and her numbers kept climbing. She was exhausted. She was scared. Picture her sitting across from me, hands folded, saying the words I have heard from so many patients. I am doing everything I am supposed to do. Why is this not working? I have to tell you what I found. But first, let me walk you through the 7 fruits, because what I discovered about Sandra connects directly to what I'm about to show you. Number 7. Watermelon. This is the one I warned you about, the summer staple, the one that looks harmless because it is 92% water, and that water is the trap. Watermelon has a glycemic index of around 76. To put that in perspective, pure table sugar sits around 65. Watermelon is faster than table sugar at hitting your bloodstream, and it carries almost no fiber to slow anything down. That cool, sweet slice on a hot July afternoon hits your liver like a fireman's hose. The water fools you into thinking nothing is happening. Your pancreas knows otherwise. It is not that watermelon is toxic. A few small cubes alongside a handful of nuts after a real meal. Your body can manage that. But a big bowl on the porch in the afternoon on an empty stomach, that is a spike followed by a crash, followed by hunger, followed by more eating. I have had patients tell me they cannot figure out why their numbers are all over the place in the summer. They eat so well. Then I ask about the watermelon. Every time. Number 6. Pineapple. Pineapple has a reputation as a health food, mostly because of bromelain. That is the enzyme people associate with digestion and reducing inflammation. And bromelain does have real benefits. But here's the problem. Bromelain does absolutely nothing for your blood sugar, and pineapple carries a glycemic index around 66 with very little fiber to buffer the fructose load. Fresh pineapple is already a challenge. Canned pineapple in syrup is worse. Pineapple juice is worse still, because now you have stripped out every last bit of fiber and you are back to flooding that liver accountant with more work than it can handle. A few bites of fresh pineapple after a real meal with protein and fat already in your stomach. Manageable. Pineapple on its own as a snack on an empty stomach, that is a sugar delivery vehicle with a tropical accent. Number 5. Mango. People call it the king of fruits, and say it like that is a compliment to their health. One medium mango carries roughly 45 grams of sugar. To give you a reference point, that is more than you will find in most candy bars. Its glycemic index sits around 60. Mango does bring real vitamin C and some carotenoids. Those are the orange pigments that genuinely do support eye and immune health. I am not dismissing that. But for someone managing blood sugar, the sugar load drowns out the benefits. Treat mango as dessert. A few thin slices, fine. Half a mango in a morning bowl is a number you will see climb on your meter. Now here is where things get interesting, because number 4 is going to prove the entire point of this video. Number 4, the banana. This is the fruit in almost every kitchen in America, and the banana proves something that I wish more people understood. A banana is not one fixed thing. It changes. Day by day, a firm, green-tipped banana is full of what is called resistant starch. Your digestive system cannot break resistant starch down quickly. It moves slowly. Blood sugar barely notices, but as that banana sits on your counter and the peel starts going spotted and brown, the resistant starch converts into plain sugar. A heavily spotted banana can climb to a glycemic index of around 62. Same banana, 3 days apart, completely different effect on your blood. And here's the mistake that I see most often, and it connects directly to the blueberry mistake I will come back to at the very end. People grab the softest, sweetest, brownest banana. They eat it alone. First thing in the morning, empty stomach. Then they wonder why they feel shaky and hollow by 10 in the morning. A green-tipped banana, half of it, alongside a spoon of almond butter or a boiled egg. That is a reasonable choice. A brown banana by itself at 7 in the morning is a spike with a crash engineered right into the back end of it. That said, do not go rushing to throw out your bananas. Just pay attention to color and what you pair them with. Now let me come back to Sandra for a moment, because when I sat down with her and went through her day hour by hour, something jumped out. She was eating well. Her meals were actually solid, but I noticed something in her morning routine. She was starting every single day with what she described as a healthy breakfast. Fruit on top of yogurt, a small glass of orange juice. She had done this for over a decade. It felt like a ritual of taking care of herself, and in some ways it was. But the orange juice was doing something she did not know about, and one of the fruits she was using was destroying the benefit of everything else she was doing. I told her I wanted her to try one change, just one. She looked at me skeptically. She had heard a lot of suggestions over 11 years. Her eyes said she was tired of suggestions, but she agreed to try, now. I need to finish the list first, because what I am about to show you with the 3 fruits that actually work for you, that is the framework that made Sandra's change make sense, and it is why number 1 is not what most people guess. Before I continue, if this information is new to you, hit like so the algorithm shows this to someone who needs it. It costs you nothing, and it could change everything for someone in your family. Now, the 3 fruits that work for you. Number 3, the apple. You have heard an apple a day your whole life. It turns out that one is mostly true, with one condition: the skin has to stay on. The apple's real tool is called pectin. That is a soluble fiber that concentrates right under the skin, and pectin forms a gel inside your gut that physically slows sugar absorption down to a crawl. Picture it like a net stretched across a drain. Sugar still passes through, but slowly, steadily, no flood. The skin also carries most of the apple's polyphenols, plant compounds that a 2021 study published in Nutrients linked to improved insulin signaling. Peel the apple and you have thrown the medicine in the trash and kept the sugar. Turn it into applesauce or juice it, and it is worse than the peeled apple. A whole apple with the skin lands at a glycemic index around 36, one of the gentlest numbers on this entire list. Eat it whole. Keep the skin. That is the complete instruction. Here is what I need you to understand before we get to number 2. Most people think being careful about blood sugar means avoiding fruit entirely, and some people swing the other way and eat fruit freely because it is natural. Both are missing the point. The real question is not how much sugar is in the fruit. The real question is how fast does that sugar reach your bloodstream and what is already in your stomach when it arrives. Protein slows absorption. Fat slows absorption. Fiber slows absorption. Eat a fruit with a high glycemic index by itself on an empty stomach, and it hits you like a wave. Eat the same fruit after a meal with protein and fat already in your system, and the wave becomes a ripple. Context changes chemistry. Always. Number 2, grapefruit. Grapefruit has the lowest glycemic index of any fruit we have talked about today, around 25. It carries a compound called naringinin. That is the bitter flavonoid that gives grapefruit its sharp edge, and naringinin has been studied for its effect on insulin sensitivity. A 2019 study in the journal Molecular Nutrition and Food Research found that naringinin activates the same cellular pathways involved in glucose metabolism without a prescription. On paper, grapefruit is close to a perfect fruit for blood sugar management, but I have to draw a hard line here, because this is the one fruit on this list that can genuinely cause harm for some of you, and it has nothing to do with sugar. Grapefruit blocks an enzyme in your intestine called CYP3A4. That enzyme is what your body uses to break down a long list of common medications, including most statins, the cholesterol drugs, including several blood pressure medications, including some heart rhythm and anxiety medications. When you block that enzyme with grapefruit, those medications can build to levels far above what your doctor prescribed. That is not theoretical. That is a real pharmacological interaction with real consequences. So before you add grapefruit to your morning, call your pharmacist, not your doctor, your pharmacist. They know drug interactions better than almost anyone. Ask if your specific medication is on the grapefruit interaction list. It takes 5 minutes. If you are not on those medications, grapefruit is remarkable. Half of one in the morning, eaten in segments so you keep all the fiber, and your blood sugar barely registers a response. Sandra came back 6 weeks after our conversation. She walked in differently, lighter somehow, not in weight, but in the way she was carrying herself. She sat down and put her home monitoring log on my desk. Picture that log opened flat between us, 12 weeks of morning fasting numbers. The first 4 weeks, the numbers she had been seeing before our conversation: 172, 181, 164, then week 5 started, 142, 138, 129. She pointed to the numbers and said, "I did not change my medication. I did not change my walks. I only changed the morning. I told her that is exactly what I expected. Now let me show you why. Number 1. The blueberry. 49 cents a serving. The cheapest berry in the store. And the one that earned the top spot, not because I like it or because it sounds impressive, but because of what it does at the cellular level that no other common fruit does as efficiently. Let me explain the mechanism. Because if you do not understand why it works, you will not respect how to eat it. And respecting how you eat it is everything. The active compounds in a blueberry are called anthocyanins. That is the deep blue and purple pigment concentrated in the skin. And anthocyanins do something specific. They improve the sensitivity of your cells to insulin. Here is what that means in plain terms. Think of insulin like a key, and think of the door on each of your cells like a lock. When you eat carbohydrates, insulin travels to those cell doors and tries to unlock them so glucose can get inside and be used for energy. But in type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance, those locks get stiff. The key is there. The key is trying, but the door barely opens. Glucose cannot get in. It stays in the bloodstream instead. Blood sugar stays high. The pancreas panics and makes more insulin. The problem compounds. Anthocyanins from blueberries work on those locks. They help the mechanisms loosen. The key fits better. The door opens more easily. More glucose gets inside cells where it belongs. Less glucose stays floating in the bloodstream. A 2022 randomized controlled trial, published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, looked at adults with insulin resistance and found that daily consumption of blueberry compounds led to measurable improvement in insulin sensitivity in just 6 weeks. 6 weeks. Now, the participants in that study were not eating blueberries the way most people eat them, and that difference is exactly where most people lose the benefit entirely. Here is the part I want you to pay very close attention to, because this is where good intentions go to die. Most people eat blueberries in ways that cancel out almost all of the anthocyanin benefit before it ever reaches their cells. They blend the blueberries into a smoothie. Blending shreds the fiber. It releases the fructose. And now you have done to blueberries exactly what happens to orange juice. You have turned a slow, steady delivery of beneficial compounds into a fructose flood that hits the liver all at once. The anthocyanins go along for the ride, but the spike and the hepatic stress undermine everything the anthocyanins were trying to do. They bake blueberries into muffins loaded with refined flour and added sugar. Same problem, multiplied. They scatter a handful over sweetened cereal. The cereal spike buries the benefit, or they eat them with nothing at all, right out of the container, first thing in the morning before any food. Not as harmful as the smoothie, but still not optimal. You are eating the bottle and pouring the medicine into a disrupted system. The right way is almost insultingly simple. Half a cup of whole blueberries, fresh or frozen. It makes no difference to the anthocyanins whether they come from a fresh container or a frozen bag. The freezing process does not meaningfully damage these compounds. Eat them whole, not blended, not baked, not buried, alongside something with protein and fat to slow everything down. Plain Greek yogurt, full fat, a small handful of walnuts, 2 eggs. It does not matter what the protein and fat source is. What matters is that they are there, already in your stomach, slowing the absorption of everything that follows. That combination, whole blueberries with protein and fat, turns a 49-cent serving into something that works consistently, day after day, to gradually improve how your cells respond to insulin. And I want to be honest with you, not everyone will see a result like Sandra's. Some people respond faster, some respond more slowly. What the research shows is that the majority of people with insulin resistance who add this consistently do see meaningful improvement. The direction is clear. The timeline varies. Sandra was on the better end of what I typically see. Now, let me tell you what Sandra had actually been doing every morning before she came to see me. She was starting her day with a bowl of plain Greek yogurt. She would scatter a handful of frozen blueberries on top. So far, so good. But then she would pour a glass of orange juice. She had done that for 40 years. Her mother had done it. Her grandmother had done it. It was the morning ritual of a person who cared about her health. And every single morning, that glass of orange juice was doing exactly what I described earlier. It was flooding her liver with fructose before anything else had a chance to settle. It was elevating her fasting blood sugar before she had taken a single step. The blueberries were there. The anthocyanins were there. but the orange juice was creating a biochemical environment that worked against everything the blueberries were trying to do. One change. She stopped the orange juice. She kept the blueberries on the yogurt. She added a small handful of walnuts alongside, and in her words, when she came back 6 weeks later, "I feel like my body finally started cooperating." 3 months after that first visit, her A1C came back at 6.1. Her endocrinologist asked what she had changed. She told him one fruit and one habit. He wrote both down. Now let me be clear about something before I give you the protocol. If you are taking blood pressure medication, talk to your pharmacist before significantly changing your fruit intake, particularly if you are considering grapefruit. If you are on blood thinners, be aware that some fruits can interact with warfarin based on vitamin K content. If you have kidney disease, your doctor may have specific guidance on fruit intake related to potassium levels. Never stop or reduce your medication because of something you saw in a video, including this one. What you are doing is adding to your protocol, not replacing it. Always discuss significant dietary changes with your doctor. Now, here is exactly what I want you to do starting tomorrow morning. First, walk into your kitchen tonight and mentally reclassify 4 fruits: watermelon, pineapple, mango, and any banana that has gone heavily spotted and soft. These are not snacks, they are treats. Small portions after a real meal with protein and fat already in your system. Never alone, never on an empty stomach. Second, tomorrow morning prepare half a cup of whole blueberries. Fresh or frozen, does not matter. Eat them with plain Greek yogurt or with eggs or with a handful of walnuts. Whole berries only, not a smoothie, not baked into anything. Whole, with something that slows them down. Third, look at what you are drinking in the morning. If there is fruit juice in your refrigerator, orange juice, apple juice, any of it, pour your last glass tonight and make it your last. Juice is the fastest way to undermine everything else on this list. Fourth, keep whole apples with the skin on somewhere you will actually see them and reach for them. When you want something sweet in the afternoon, that is your first move. Fifth, if you want to try grapefruit, call your pharmacist first if you are on any medications. One phone call, do not guess. I know what some of you are thinking right now. This sounds manageable, but is it really going to move my numbers? Let me be honest with you about the timeline. Week 1, almost nothing noticeable. Your cells are just beginning to be exposed to different inputs. This is where most people lose patience and give up. Do not. Week 2, you may start to notice your energy feels slightly steadier in the mornings, less of that hollow crashing feeling by mid-morning. This is your first signal that something is shifting. Week 3, if you are monitoring at home, this is often when the morning fasting numbers start to move. Not dramatically, but consistently. The trend line changes direction. Week 4 and beyond, the cumulative effect becomes measurable. The body does not respond to a single blueberry. It responds to consistency, the same way it took years for insulin resistance to develop. It takes weeks to months for meaningful reversal to build. What I can tell you is that the direction is almost always the same when people follow this consistently. The trend line moves the right way, and when your A1C comes back 3 months from now, there is a very good chance your doctor is going to ask you what changed. Let me bring this full circle before I let you go, because there is something I want to leave you with that goes beyond the fruit list. Sandra changed 2 things that morning. She added the blueberries in the right way, and she stopped the orange juice she had been drinking every morning for 40 years. That second change mattered every bit as much as the first, maybe more, because the thing you remove from your morning can matter more than what you add. The damage done by the orange juice every day was actively working against every effort she was making. Once that interference was gone, her body finally had a chance to respond to what she was doing right. The fruit you add matters. The thing you have been drinking every day that you never questioned, that might matter more. Today you have learned something that a standard appointment almost never has time to cover. You now understand why fruit is not simply good or bad. You understand the liver mechanism, the fiber variable, the fructose flood, and why the same banana hits your blood sugar differently depending on which day you eat it. You have a ranked list, you have a protocol, you have a timeline, you have more information right now than most people ever receive about this specific issue. And the difference between you and someone who watches this and does nothing is whether you walk into that kitchen tonight. So do this. Type the words "I finished" in the comments if you watch this all the way through. Then send this video to one person you love. Your mother, your father, your sister, your spouse, someone who starts every morning with orange juice and a piece of fruit they think is harmless. You might be handing them something that changes the next 3 months of their health. Do not let anyone tell you it is too late, because it is not now. There is one thing I did not tell you today, something you are probably doing every morning that makes everything we talked about today less effective. It is not about food, it is about timing. And it is the opposite of what most people believe about morning health routines. That is the next video. A study that tracked over 6,000 adults for nearly a decade found that the timing of one morning habit was associated with significantly better metabolic outcomes, and the people with the best numbers were doing the opposite of what conventional wisdom has suggested for years. I will see you there.